So, hello everyone, Namit Goel this side once again. So, today's topic are data types, implicit, explicit conversion operators in Python. So, today's session is going to be very interactive and very important because we, for Python, like data types, implicit conversion, explicit conversion operators are the key for any of the programming language. And in Python, like we know that Python is a very simple and very exciting programming language. So, let's understand what all we have in this today's session. So I have created one separate documentation for it so that you guys can understand what all data types we have. So before we go to the practical implementation, I would like to share like what all data types we have. Like we have integer, we have float, we have complex. In previous, if you recall, in previous sessions, we have talked about the string. Like similarly, we have a string, we have list, we have tuple, and we have dictionary. Similarly, we have set, bytes, non-type, and set, binary, none, right? Apart from that, for today's session, we have the implicit conversion. What implicit conversion is, Python automatically converts a smaller data type to the larger one to avoid data loss. Key rule conversion is always safe, no precision loss. So what exactly it means, I will go and when we see the practical implementation, I will talk about all those stuff. For an example, you can see that a equals to 7 is an integer, b equals to 3.0, that is a float. C equals to a plus b, that is we are now printing its value. So the result you are seeing is 10.0. That means that we are getting the final result in the float because float is a higher data type as compared to the integer. So final output is turned out to be 10.0. That is a float. So that is called as implicit conversion. Result, like it is also mentioning as integer a is promoted to float before the addition. Limitation: Python cannot implicitly convert incompatible types like string plus integer is a type error. We cannot consolidate, or we cannot print, or we can convert a single value for an integer and a combination of a string, so it will be turn out to be a type error, right? We will see like how what exactly this type error will look like when we go to the practical implementation. Now let's move to the explicit conversion. Definition: programmers manually changes the type using built-in functions. So there are common functions for it. Int convert the float or numeric string to integer. Float convert the integer or numeric string to float. A string convert the string or float to a string. So as it's mentioned that a number num string is equals to 12, num int is 23. Now we are converting num sum, and now you can see that we are converting num string to the integer. That is the explicit conversion, and we are adding the num int, and the final value you are seeing the final result is showing is 35. And after 35, you are seeing that in greater than smaller than sign, you are seeing that class int, that is the type of the final output, type of the class of the final output, that is the data type of the final output. So it is showing that the final output value is 35 and its class is integer because we have converted a string into the integer value. So result is string 12 explicitly cast to an integer before addition because we have explicitly converted the string value to integer. So we were able to see successful addition of the string value which is converted to integer, and the integer value, that is the result is 35. Now next we have the operators. Python operators let you perform arithmetic operations, comparison, logical bitwise assignment, identity and membership operations on values. Use them to build expressions, control flow, manipulate data. Like these are the arithmetic expressions for math. These are the comparison, equals to, not equals to, greater than, less than for comparison, and or not for logical, and is or in for membership or identity. Now, as we talk about on a high level, like what's the basic definition about the operators we have, what all operators we have, explicit and implicit conversions, and the data types we have. So let's move to our IDE, that is a Visual Studio for the Python. I'm using Visual Studio for Python. That is, I feel that like it is quite easy to use a Python. Sorry, to use a Visual Studio for using a Python. So I'm using it. So let's directly move to the practical implementation now. So in this screen, like if you can see that I have created a separate file. We have already have a separate file Python. I've just given this name just to showcase, to understand, to just to highlight you guys that so that you can understand what this file is all about. But you can define any type of name you want. I put the name as Python underscore data type underscore operators underscore conversion. So the file itself name suggests that what all things we are going to cover on this. And it is not mandatory to put Python every time in front. I'm just putting it for myself. It's my habit to put Python underscore with any of the file name. But .py is the extension, which is definitely a mandatory thing. Okay. So now we will just walk through on the we will walk through all the each and every step. I will explain what exactly we are doing. So although I have mentioned the comments as well, I am printing the statements so that all the things are self-explanatory. But before we execute this program, I will explain everything so that if you guys are completely new and you do not know anything about on the because it's a basic understanding of the Python, so it's better we should go line by line and definitely to understand what exactly things we have here. So in the first line, you can see that we are just printing the data type in Python. So I'm defining, we will talking about first about the data type, what all data type we have. So here I have taken the integer. If you can see that we are just placing a equals to 10. It's Python automatically understand if a equals to 10 means that a is type of integer data type. Similarly, for B, it's B is equal to 3.14. That is it's a float value. Anything which is having a pointed value, it's a float value. C equals to hello world. That's a self-explanatory. It's under between the quotes, so it's a string data type. Now, what we are doing, we are printing its values. We are printing the integer, we are printing the float, we are printing the string. Now, next we have operators in Python. Now we are again printing the operators in Python. This is slash n is a new line character. So when you see the result now, I will explain why I'm using slash n, what is the purpose of it, and what is the benefit of it. So just wait for a while. Now we have defined x equals to 5 and y equals to 2. Now we are just trying to we are this is these are the arithmetic operators. Okay. Now we are trying to perform the addition. So for addition, we are just doing x plus y, that is a sum. Then we are performing the subtraction, x minus y. Then we are performing the multiplication. Then we are doing the division. Then we have a floor division. Although the floor division, I'm also not sure what exactly the value will be looks like. So let's see. Then we have a modulus. Then we have a exponential. After that, we have a conversion. Now we talk about the type conversion we have in our Python. Like we are converting now. This is now for this like we are defining num underscore str equals to 1 to 3, and as 1 to 3 is defined into the double quotes. That means it's a string value. But now I wanted to convert a string into an integer value. So for that one, we are calling the int function, which we are passing the string value, which will be automatically converted to the integer, and we are printing the value string to integer. That means initially 1 2 3 was the string. Now it has been converted after the conversion. It has been converted to 123. That is a numeric value now. Now again we are doing for the float. Now we are converting the string value to a float value. Similarly, we are converting. Now we are taking the second string. That is again we are converting num string num integer to a string. Now we are converting integer to a string. Previously we were doing string to integer. Now we are converting integer value to a string, right? Similarly, then we are printing it. Similarly for num str3 str number float. Now we are converting float value to a string again. So we will printing the float value. Now, next is example of implicit type conversion, in which like A is integer and B is float, which we see the example as well, where we were showing that uh, we are converting the smaller value into the higher value so that there will be no precision loss. So in this case, what will be happening whenever you are whenever you are making the addition of A to B, then we will be getting then we will be getting the final result that is of float type. when we run this result now, you will see that the final result will be the float type, because implicitly integer is converted into the float. There is no manual or extra effort need to be put. It's automatically handled by the Python only. So whenever a string and whenever integer and the float is getting into the addition or any kind of mathematical operation, the final output must be in a float. Now we are seeing the explicit type conversion. In the explicit type conversion, we are taking the example of again a equals to 5, that is the integer value, and b is 2.5, that is a float value. Because here we are converting the explicit conversion. So explicitly we need to convert the uh, float value to integer value, because whenever we have to perform the explicit conversion, we have to add the values as per the lower data type. So integer is a lower data type here and float is a higher, but because we are doing the explicit conversion, so we have to because we have no, it is not mandatory every time that we should be have to convert go to the lower data type or a higher data type, because in this case we wanted to get the final output into the integer values. That is why we are converting the float into a integer value, and you can see that we are calling the init function, and this init function, this int function, sorry, not init, it's the int function. In int function we are passing the we are passing the float value, and the final output will be turn out to be a integer result, because we are explicitly converting float to the integer. That is, the higher data type is getting converted into the lower data type, and in this case we cannot guarantee the precision. There is a precision loss. Precision loss is something like whenever you are converting 2.5 float value to integer, the final output will be a 2. It will be not 2.5, it will be only 2. So that is why zero point 0.5 is the precision loss we have. Okay. Another example we have added here is like in this case, in the previous example, we are converting the float value to the integer. Now in this example, we have taken another value, a is equals to 5, b equals to 9.5, that is a float value. Now in the result, we are converting a as as a float value to a sorry, a as an integer value to a float value. Now if you wanted to see what is the result of this float a, so let's print that as well so that you can understand how it looks like. Print, let me just take the example as float a, and then we will print this way. Okay. Now we will now in this case we will see similarly we can do this as well when we are converting the float to integer. So I can take this example. I take this one. The bracket has been added. Sorry, let me just remove it. And let me remove this statement so that, sorry, let me write it down in bracket that b. So now you can see that how the conversion it work actually. It's in that is why it's showing the import statement. It is not required. So now you can see that when we execute this statement, now we will see that how exactly it is working. But we will have to first start to see what exactly the outputs are getting generated. Now let me trigger. You will see all the print statement as getting generated, and we will walk through on those all these print statement and with this content. Okay. So now let's start from the beginning. So first of all, we were printing data type in Python. So when we talk about the integer data type, we talk about a float, we talk about the string data type. Now we talk about the operators in Python. Like we talk about the addition where the values are 5 and 2. The result is 7. Subtraction, the result is 3. Multiplication, the result is 10. Division is 2.5. Floor is 2.5. Floor is 2. Floor division is 2. That is, we are after the division, we are converting the float result into a integer value. Modulus is 1. Like When we divide 5 by 2, that means 2 into 2 is 4, that is 1 is the value which is the remainder. So that is a modulus, and exponential is 25. We are converting, if we see, we are doing the exponential, so its result, that means the 5 is to power of 2, that means the 5 into 5, that is a 5 square, that is 25. Now we have the type conversion. So for the type conversion, we are converting string to integer value. So now we can see that string to integer, it's now 123, it's converted to the integer value. Now string to float, now this 123, previously it was showing as just 123. So it is now converted to a float value, that is 123.0, that is a float value. In float, whenever you are converting any integer or a string to a float value, so it will automatically, when it's convert the float, it will automatically add point 0 in the end, so that it will be treated as a float data type value. Now we are converting integer value back to the string. So in this statement, here and here, you are not seeing any difference, because it's having say because we are not showing the values in the quotes. If something is defined, if you see that whenever we are defining the string value, it's coming as 1 2 3, but here in the print statement the values are not coming in such a way, so that, so don't get confused. It's a clearly stating that in the print statement, string to integer conversion, now is integer to string conversion. Now again, float to string. Whenever you are converting float to string, you will not be getting 1.0 getting removed, because anything you are passing to a string for the conversion, it will print as it is value. Okay. Now let's talk about the implicit type conversion. So here we will talk about that we are converting the implicit converting integer to a float value. So the final result. That means where is it? Implicit type conversion. Okay, here it is the value. So what was happening over there was, we were having the initial values, integer value is 5, another value is a float, that is 2.5, and we were doing the implicit conversion. And in the implicit conversion, higher data type value will be generated as output. So integer and the float, the higher data type is float, so we are getting the final result as 7.5. Now we talk about the explicit conversion. That is the interesting part, where we wanted to see how exactly the changes are look like. So initially you are seeing that we are converting integer, that is the b. We are the sorry we have b as a float value. We have wanted to convert the float value as an integer value. So we have printed the int b. What will be the output? So you can see the output, initial the input was 2.5, but the output is coming as 2, because we are converting float to integer, a higher data type to a lower one. So will be a precision loss because of zero point 0.5 value, and integer does not support the floating value, so it will be converted to 2 only. Now another line, if you see the addition of it, their conversion, the result of their conversion, input was a plus b, that is we wanted to convert a plus b, and b, after converting the integer, the result is 7, so you are getting 7. Now in the second thing, we are passing a value as integer 5 as integer, and b 9.5 is a float. Now what we are doing, we are converting we are converting integer to a float, and keeping float values as it is. Now what will be the output of the float a? That means after, when we are converting integer a to float value, what will be its output? Its output is 5.0. As I mentioned earlier, whenever you are converting any integer to a float value, and the end it will be at its point 0 as a to make it converted as a float value. Now the final output is, you can see that it's 14.5. So you can see that the float conversion was successful, and the addition and the result of their addition was 14.5. I hope you guys understood the basics of what all data types we have, how explicit and implicit conversion happening in Python, and how we are taking the advantage of operators defined in Python. So that's all for today we have on this session. Please feel free to share your feedbacks and inputs. And if you want any video on any specific topic, please reach out to me and drop your comments into the comment box. And if you like my video, please like and subscribe my channel as well, so that you can stay tuned with later coming videos on Python. And definitely, I have started another playlist which we'll be talking about the artificial intelligence and the generative AI tutorials and practical implementation. So for those artificial intelligence knowledge, please stay tuned with the channel and please subscribe and like the video. Thank you. That's all for today.